what was the basically challenges you faced? How you took over your third generation company?
I completed my engineering, and after that I worked with L&T in their oil and gas division. That gave me some wonderful experience and opportunity to learn. And then as I was preparing for my MBA after coming back to Delhi, and at that time my father suddenly passed away, I'm very grateful that I had and still have a wonderful team that helped me in that transition, so I never felt alone.
What was your real age when you took over?
I just turned 25.
What kind of challenges comes while doing this servant leadership, and people don't take you for granted as well?
This is not something that I've experienced that can be fake. It actually comes from the heart. If you are working in the welfare and interest of the people that are associated with you, then I feel that is a true example of servant leadership. When I joined the business in 2011, it was unfortunately so common for truck hijackings to take place, kidnappings and murders to take place. It was so shocking for me coming from an MNC culture to actually manage these kind of situations.
Which are the function do you see in logistics industry which can be optimized through the AI?
Very recently, it's a very live example where we are using Claude to analyze payment histories of companies over the last few months and years, and to build a credit rating for organizations based on that data. Because AI at the end of the day depends on data. But the pitfall, I suppose, is that how do you actually use that data to make the right decisions for your organization?
What one trend you see which will disrupt entire logistics industry? नमस्कार दोस्तों, लॉजिस्टिक्स शक्ति के पॉडकास्ट चैनल में एक बार फिर से आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। जैसा हमारा आपको प्रॉमिस है, कमिटमेंट है, वादा है कि लॉजिस्टिक्स शक्ति के प्लेटफॉर्म पर हम ऐसी हस्तियों को लेके आते हैं, ऐसे उन तमाम लीडर्स को इनवाइट करते हैं जिनकी लाइफ से, जिनकी जर्नी से, जिनके बिजनेस ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन इनिशिएटिव से हम और आप मिलकर कुछ सीख सकते हैं। तो इसी जर्नी में आज हमारे बीच में एक ऐसे थर्ड जनरेशन यंग एंटरप्रेन्योर हैं जिन्होंने अपनी फैमिली ओरिएंटेड लेगेसी ड्रिवन थर्ड जनरेशन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को आज की डेट में टेक्नोलॉजी, प्रोसेस एंड कल्चर ड्रिवन स्ट्रक्चर्ड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में ट्रांसफॉर्म किया है। एंड ये रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी उनके ऊपर लाइफ में बाय डिफॉल्ट, by the God willing, has come little early than the others. So there has been a lot of, tragical learning as well from his perspective. And he is not just a young leader, he is a mechanical engineer, management graduate. And beyond this, he is a life coach. So he strongly believes learning and teaching. पहले सीखो और फिर सिखाओ. On this basis, he is running India's one of the oldest transport company, or probably one of the only company which was running between India and SAARC country, precisely India and Nepal. In the ages of freedom days, we started 1950, and beyond this logistics organization, he also run a forging company, a very, very successful manufacturing organizations. So he has the perspective of giving the services of logistics and also taking the services of logistics. Beyond waiting further, I would like to introduce you for today's guest, Mr. Kaustubh Mittal with you, and who is the Managing Director and CEO of Sugam Parivahan. Thank you, Kaustubh. Thank you very much for making this possible for Logistics Shakti Podcast channel. We welcome you on behalf of the entire Logistics Shakti community of logistics professionals. We would like to hear your very exciting journey, and then we'll take it forward.
Thanks so much, Amit. Really appreciate the opportunity, and it's been wonderful chatting with you so far, and really looking forward to this conversation today.
Certainly.
I'll only make one small correction.
Please.
In your introduction, and thank you so much for such a kind introduction. I'm not a management graduate yet. I did complete my engineering.
You were going for a management graduate.
Yeah.
While speaking, I realized, but I continued.
No, that's totally fine. I was going for it, but then because of circumstances, I had to take over the family business. So my management experience has been more on ground yet, as of now.
ग्राउंड पे शॉप फ्लोर पे जाके हमने सीखा है.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And that's
So-
been very valuable learning.
absolutely.
So yeah, thanks a lot for that intro.
If you can enlighten, how you started and what was the basically challenges you faced, how you took over your third generation company from your I just heard that your father could not pass it on the way formally could have been. It has come by
Yes, yes. So
tragic incident.
yes, so as you mentioned, Amit, I completed my engineering, and after that, I worked with L&T in the oil and gas division in multiple cities in India, and had the opportunity to work on oil and gas projects both onshore and offshore for a few years. That gave me some wonderful experience and opportunity to learn. And then, as I was preparing for my MBA after coming back to Delhi, I started working a little bit in our both our family businesses into manufacturing and in logistics. And at that time, my father suddenly passed away, and I had to switch gears from going for my MBA to getting hands-on with the family business.
Yeah.
So that's when my mom took on the mantle of our Forgings company, and I took on the mantle of our logistics company. And I'm very grateful that I had and still have a wonderful team that helped me in that transition. So I never felt alone. And it also gave me a platform, despite all the challenges, to actually make my own mistakes. And that helped in my learning curve going from linear to exponential. So it's very few people have the opportunity of carrying on legacies that have been there for 70 plus years. So I'm quite fortunate, and my engineering background and my work experience in a multinational company really helped me in building a foundation for me.
What was your real age when you took over?
I just turned 25.
So at the age of 25, you took over the entire charge of Sugam Parivahan.
Yes, and of AFPL Forgings both.
Okay, great. So what are the real typical challenges you faced, which might have become a little nightmare, but you sail through? That's more important.
Sure. So one of the biggest challenges is to step on the shoes of your father and grandfather who spent decades in building their image and developing the relationships that they've built for so many decades. So that comes with its own uh, pressure, I would say.
Certainly.
And then to be able to, you have to really earn your respect with the people. And so to do that requires a lot of humility and a learning mindset, which is a core part of our values today. So I'd gone through a tremendous phase of unlearning, because coming from a multinational company, my instant thoughts were, how do we professionalize this, and how do we bring in systems? And
So coming from multinational means?
I was working with L&T.
Oh, you started working.
Yeah, so just before I joined our business, I was working with L&T for a few years.
Okay.
So my playing field was, large organizations, large systems, already set up processes, standardized SOPs. So coming into a family-owned business, which was more individual and relationship-driven rather than process-driven, was a big shift for me to settle in. And one of the biggest challenges and opportunities that I had was that how do I shift the organization from an individual centric to a more process driven organization? So that was the biggest challenge as well as an opportunity for me in the organization in the initial days. And of course, how to build trust within the teams, because there was concern that how the or whether the legacy will be continued or not. So those were things that, or legitimate concerns that everyone had, and that's what I tried to do, and I'm still trying to carry forward that legacy.
So which are the top 3 initiatives you might have taken by design or by default or by compulsion? Anyway, thought of the mind, it would have been there in your routine to implement in your organization. So top 3 initiatives you can talk about, from unorganized to organized, and manual to a technology, or the transformation of team.
Sure. So one of the key decisions that we took, Amit, were to go cashless and paperless. And this was in the early 2010s, where this was not the norm or the trend in the logistics industry. But I was very clear that the system should be absolutely transparent, and only then can real scaling up happen. So that decision was very crucial, and I'm very glad that the team really supported me in that initiative. And especially in the going cashless journey was a very important transformative decision that we took. The second was to bring in transparency to technology and to ERP systems. Now it's something very obvious that without technology, how can you survive?
15-20 years before, it was a
It was a good to have at that
good to
time,
have,
not a really
correct.
must have.
Must have. Today is a must have, correct.
So bringing in real time visibility to internal stakeholders and to customers, and bringing in that technology to all the branches and offices, that was a very important and transformative decision that we took. And then third was to work on giving training to people and building the right culture, both by upskilling the existing team and by bringing in fresh talent to bring in new ideas and ways of working. I think these three were the most important things that come to my mind.
Great. And while chatting with you just in offline, I realized that you are a life coach as well. So what are the 3 or 2, whatever you feel like, basic leadership principle you followed in this transformative journey or is still following it up?
So it's a work in progress, Amit, and I still continue to make mistakes and learn along the leadership journey. So it's been a very humbling journey for me. And I believe in the concept of servant leadership. And to me, the concept of leadership is to lead and to help people achieve their goals and aims and ambitions. And from an organizational perspective, it is to help the organization achieve its goal and to help people becoming more empowered and excel in their own roles and in their own careers. So the shift from me to we, for me, is the most central part of leadership, and it's been a very fulfilling journey, and that shift actually is one of the reasons why our organization has succeeded. And my intent in developing leaders is also so that they develop more leaders. So that is the central philosophy of leadership that I follow. And wearing the role of a coach helps me to develop more empathy for the people. In fact, working with L&T as an employee, I was working in the shop floor in the heat in Surat, for example, at 45 degrees in the yard, actually operating cranes and machines uh, like a graduate engineer trainee does. That helped me develop that empathy and understanding of the challenges that people go through in their day-to-day lives, especially people at the bottom of the pyramid who I feel a lot of attention needs to be given towards. So having that empathy and understanding of what people go through, I feel are fundamental parts of either a coach or a leader.
You mentioned that having the style of a servant leadership. So can you just dig down a little deeper on it? How to adopt this and what kind of challenges comes while doing this servant leadership, and people don't, may take you a granted as well.
Sure, it's possible. I feel it's very important to be. This is not something, Amit, that I have experienced that can be faked. It it actually comes from the heart. So the concept of servant leadership, to me, what it means is basically that you're there to serve people. Whether you're a politician, whether you're a business leader, if the intent is to serve people, and whether it's your employees or anyone else, I feel is at the core of servant leadership. So if one is only thinking of one's personal gain or how you can accumulate wealth or prosperity or image for yourself, then it's contrary to the concept of servant leadership. So if you are working in the welfare and interest of the people that are associated with you, then I feel that is a true example of servant leadership. Having said that, it's a it's a tough thing to actually imbibe and really live by. I'm trying to become better at it and trying to increase my awareness of it because In business, like in many other domains, there can be a very natural attraction towards bottom line and creating shareholder value. So it is a balance between both, but I feel that it's a journey of how you can keep improving that balance and think of the welfare of the people before you think of yourself. And we have drafted a very thoughtful company purpose statement and value statement that we actually begin all our meetings by. And I've been inspired by a lot of leaders and mentors along the way. And our purpose statement actually reflects about impacting the lives of employees, clients, and all stakeholders positively. So just reminding ourselves on a daily basis of that purpose statement and why we exist and the opportunity that we have has helped us and helped me in being more aware of.
What is that purpose statement?
So our purpose statement is basically to enhance the lives of our employees, clients, vendors, partners, and the society at large through impactful solutions and services. So it's inspired by my own life purpose and my mentors in the past. And of course, I have a very naturally made affinity towards the leadership principles of the Tata Group and GRD Tata. So a lot of my learnings have come from great people and great lives. So as an organization, we've co-created this purpose statement and our values, and we try to live those on a day-to-day basis.
Principles. Fantastic. So this was the segment one we completed, or we discussed about your transformation journey, about Sugam Parivahan. Let's talk about little bit more towards the industry. So how industry is shaping up? I believe Sugam Parivahan operate in rail, road, and 3PL, right? So how multimodal logistics in India is shaping up?
Our foundation, Amit, has always been on multimodal. As you mentioned initially, the introduction, when my grandfather and his brothers began the parent company journey in the 50s, we actually started with multimodal operations between India and Nepal with a combination of road, riverways, ropeways, and rail. And the significance of that today is even more important than it was 70, 80 years back because of the way the infrastructure is evolving. More specifically, because of the competition and the nature of disruption, as I see it, Amit, that unless and until any organization has a true value-added offering, one can become displaced in a drop of a hat. So one conversation that we keep on having on a regular basis within the organization is, what is our USP? How are we building on that? And how easy or difficult is it for us to get disrupted? And how can we be the disruptor and not the organization that can get displaced? Technology is a great democratizer, as you would know. And with venture capital funding coming in, with new technologies coming in, a lot of companies, there's a lot of consolidation happening in the industry, as you would also see. So the future, as I see it, is of value addition, value creation, providing solutions for the customer, and just providing brick and mortar services or transportation services from A to B is not something that has a very bright future, as I see it. And multimodal solutions are one way to provide more efficiency and solutions to customers in this day and age.
But at the same time, in India, there is a lot of gap to have, fully integrated multimodal logistics service providers. So do you see policy gaps are also there, or any expectation from a policy perspective, having the fully integrated multimodal logistics in place in India?
Absolutely. I feel while there are a lot of things that have been done to ease doing logistics business in India, especially with the advent of GST and e-way bills over the last decade. But the successful creation, establishment of multimodal logistics parks and actually connecting that to the last mile network across the country. And we, having a very strong presence in East and Northeast India, feel that the more the last mile connectivity becomes better, the road infrastructure becomes better, uh, the lesser the logistics cost comes for manufacturing companies and supply chain operators, and the more ease of business there is. Secondly, while GST and e-way bill implementation has been largely successful, there are still a lot of gray areas and a lot of teething issues that are still left to be resolved. So a more proactive approach can really help in that domain. And thirdly, being in cross-border operations, the more documentation is simplified, the more it is digitalized, the more coordination there is between the custom offices of both India and its neighboring countries, there is a huge scope of improvement in efficiency and removing of bottlenecks.
Right. So generally, we see the large players and the most number of players in our country are operating a mode-based services. ट्रांसपोर्टेशन है तो बाय रोड बाय सरफेस, कार्गो सर्विसेज है तो बाय एयर. So mode based services they are providing. There are hardly people are there who are providing an integrated supply chain completely end to end kind of. So from a suggestion perspective, how those companies can reach out from mod based transportation or mod based logistics to integrated supply chain solution providers.
Sure. So I can share our approach and how
Certainly,
we followed
that
it.
is going to be learning for
And
others.
I'm sure there'll be the different approaches that can be equally or more successful. So we've gone about diversifying our business from traditional transportation to supply chain, contract logistics, and to integrating our cross-border services and custom clearance, custom duty management. So one of the challenges that come is how to train the workforce and whether to have separate companies or doing that within the same company. We've tried to do a hybrid approach wherever we felt that in the same organization and in the same umbrella with the same team, we can upskill the workforce and sell different products. We've gone ahead with that approach. In certain cases, we've built different expertise and different verticals to sell different products. But the most important aspect that we've seen, Amit, is how do we build a more solution-based approach. So I feel a mindset comes first before
transaction to a solution-oriented
exactly.
mindset.
You put it quite right. So if one has a solution-based mindset, then which services to integrate is the next follow-up question. Where a lot of times we make mistakes, and we've also made mistakes, is that just for the sake of adding services, we've added it. But it hasn't, if it doesn't solve a solution for the end customer, then it doesn't really help. So having that, a solution-based approach has been really helpful. And then fundamentally, it becomes a question of whether you want to be a jack of all trades or whether you want to be a master of one. And there's no right or wrong approach here. There are organizations in our industry and outside.
It works differently for different people.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it's important to recognize what is in your DNA, what is in your organization's DNA, and which direction do you want to go and why do you want to go in that direction. There are companies that stick with just one approach and one product or one service in one geography and are doing excellently well. And there are companies who are doing multiple products, integrating them and doing that as well, doing that really well. But there are a very handful of companies that are doing it really well. So I would really caution organizations in doing too many things together unless your foundations are strong and unless your teams are really trained to do it.
Absolutely fantastic. So let's come to the geography side. Sugam Parivahan largely known for the SAARC country operations, particularly in Northeast, as you mentioned. So how do you see the SAARC corridor between India and SAARC, helping or challenge in current geopolitical situation, how things are shaping up?
So that's a very interesting question because this is something that we grapple with on a day-to-day basis.
Life, yeah.
And our brand promise also speaks about delivering in difficult geographies. So this is both a challenge and an opportunity. And one of the leadership principles that I've learned the hard way is how to switch every challenge into an opportunity. And working in the SAARC regions is certainly a challenge, but there's a much, much wider opportunity if we look at it from that perspective. A bulk of our business, Amit, as you mentioned, comes from Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh. And Northeast, of course, is an integral part of our country. So a lot of our business
That's a
comes.
transit point, or maybe the
It's an end
gateway.
consumer also
Yeah.
now. There's so much of manufacturing happen there, and thanks to the push of government of
Act
India.
East policy.
And,
Act East policy.
Absolutely, and it is really giving dividends. When I joined the business, Amit, in 2011, it was unfortunately so common for truck hijackings to take place, kidnappings and murders to take place. And it was so shocking for me coming from an MNC culture to actually see
and grapple with such kind of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a leader, it was a challenge to see this and manage these kind of situations. But thankfully, with the government's push, there's a sea change in what was there 15 years back and what is there now. So that gives a lot of comfort and ease. So Northeast certainly is a very important piece in not only India's growth story, but in our growth journey as well. And more specifically to the SAARC question that you had, Amit. So roughly 5% trade happens within the SAARC region, and 95% is outside the SAARC region for the SAARC countries. So that metric also signifies the potential there is to grow for businesses and for logistics companies to grow within the SAARC region. So there's a lot of room for businesses and logistics companies to grow. Having said that, it requires a lot of courage, determination to actually go through the pains of the disorganized market that there is. India being the most organized market in the SAARC region, there are a lot of governmental challenges that are there in Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. In the last few years, you mentioned geopolitics, so that's a real world issue that we are grappling with, because our business is also in proportion to the diplomatic ties between India and its neighboring countries. So, especially in terms of ties between India and Bangladesh, have gone south in the last 1 or 2 years. So that has impacted business. Nepal as a country has had more than 30 prime ministers in the last 3 decades. So that comes with its own challenges. But our DNA is to grow within these territories, and our intent is how do we serve the people of these countries and how do we give solutions to the customers. So one way that we have grown, and there is an opportunity for organizations to grow, is how do you grow from a service provider to a business partner? How can you enable trade and export import for organizations? So that is where we've developed our expertise, and we are working not only with small traders and small and medium businesses, Amit, but we are partnering large businesses in crossing trade barriers and giving them expertise or sharing knowledge and expertise that we have in improving their exports and imports within the SAARC region. So there is a lot of potential in the SAARC region, but one has to take a very long-term view to be successful in this region.
So within the SAARC, I believe, of course, Bangladesh is one of the largest in terms of the economy, in terms of the overall transaction, and of course, same is applicable for transportation or logistics as well. So we are doing both way, India to Bangladesh, Bangladesh to India?
Yes, we are doing both ways, India to Bangladesh, Bangladesh to India. Similarly, for Nepal, we are doing it both ways. But of course, exports from India to these countries are higher than the imports. So a lot of our flow is outwards.
Inbound is and how about within Bangladesh and within Nepal and Bhutan?
That's not something that we are doing as of now. In Bangladesh, we intend to do that, but the geopolitical scenario and our trade relations have made that a bit tricky to execute on the ground. And for Nepal, that's not something that we are doing it as a large business model, but that's something on the cards very soon. Hopefully, in our next conversation, I'll have more to speak on that.
So these, operating in SAARC countries, inbound and outbound both way, being a regulatory issues or complexities of, regulations or different norms of policies. How do you see the can be digitalized or a digital platform can solve those issues?
Digital platforms, I feel, Amit, can be a game changer in any cross-border
Yeah.
logistics movement, especially in the SAARC region, because it is more organized, more disorganized, sorry, than other trade sectors. So if there is digitalization of documents, if the customs of both India and the neighboring countries work largely or only on digital documents, then it can improve transit times from days to weeks. The if there is focus on single window or single day custom clearance, that can also improve efficiency significantly. And you mentioned about regulatory changes. One of the challenges that we face, Amit, on a day-to-day basis is, especially with our neighboring countries, is almost on a or definitely on a weekly basis, Amit, there is some new regulatory change that
New
happens.
policies keep coming.
Absolutely, and sometimes we feel that we are it's so much better than better in India as compared to neighboring countries. But imagine every week there is a new change. It becomes so challenging to actually keep up with the change, and especially when a bulk of our business depends on that, it becomes a huge bottleneck. So because we have invested in our teams, in our technology, and in training our teams, we have a dedicated exim team that keeps up with the regulatory changes, and we keep transferring that knowledge to our customers. Still, it's a challenge for us. But for a new entrant or for someone that is not organized, it becomes next to impossible to become successful in this domain, because then your focus shifts from building business to actually firefighting or just managing regulatory authorities. So there is a lot of room for improvement here. And in Sugam, we also try and uh, speak to regulators and authorities, both at the customs, to help make it easier for businesses, because we are in a position where we can help bring that change. So one of the mandates that we have as an organization and that I speak to our leaders is, how do we use our leadership and our brand name in the SAARC region to bring about more ease of business, not just for logistics companies, but for the small and medium companies that are finding it so difficult to survive in this environment.
Beautiful. How you're helping those small and large, the medium companies?
So, Amit, it can be as simple as understanding the documentation that is required. If you're a trader or a small business or a wholesaler, you have a domestic business, but you want to start exporting, but you don't know how. We help organizations understand the entire documentation landscape, the regulatory landscape. We also work with businesses on a pro bono basis in connecting them with the right buyer or connecting buyers with the right suppliers. And we are looking to build a digital platform to that effect. But because we are working with lakhs of small and big customers in the SAARC region, so we have a huge database of organizations, and we actively help in connecting the right organizations together. And we've had many success stories, and where small companies have found new markets and new customers to serve, and we help them connect within the ecosystem with the right consultants, with right lawyers, with right CAs, for example, both within India and within companies in the SAARC region. And our intent here is to be a partner to their business growth and to help them grow their businesses, and to be an enabler for trade within the SAARC region. And we started, Amit, with an intent to serve small and medium companies, but to our surprise, there are a lot of large companies. Unfortunately, I cannot name them, but who have thousands of crores of turnovers, whose where our logistics company, where our operations team are working with their export teams to find solutions and actually enter different SAARC markets. People who are exporting to Nepal but not exporting to Bangladesh, or people who are only exploring the sea route to Bangladesh but not exploring the land route, because things are so complicated. Earlier, there were detentions of months at the Indio-Bangladesh borders, which has been reduced to weeks and sometimes days. People are not aware of that. So actually transferring that knowledge and helping businesses grow in that domain is part of our mission statement that we try to do.
Fantastic. That's good to hear that. So you must be helping a lot of exporters or SMEs who want to operate into the export market towards our countries.
Yes, existing exporters who don't have a SARC focus is one of our target
One
audiences.
area.
Companies that are not exporting yet but want to start exporting for the first time are also people who we work with. And people who are already exporting to the SARC market but want to establish themselves more or find new avenues for growth within the SARC markets, all of them. Our intent is to leverage our experience and technical knowledge and to see how we can serve our customers in achieving their business goals. Our intent is there, and we have a dedicated team of youngsters that are working. Actually, we have a very good mix of youngsters
And the
from their
experience holders.
20s. We have people who have worked for more than 40 years in our organizations, Amit, and people who, in front of whom I was born and I still
raised.
continue to learn from. And we have a mix of youngsters who are engineers or worked with the best colleges in the country and abroad. So we have a good mix of people working in creating these kind of solutions for customers. And our intent is to use technology to actually pass on that impact to more and more customers.
I'm really personally got very, thrilled or excited to hear about it. The kind of perception what industry or up to some extent market, although we cannot comment that we know the entire market, but from industry perspective, I can must say that perception what we industry carrying and the reality what you are sharing with us in case of a Sugam Parivan is completely different.
Okay, tell me more. What do you find different in the perception
No,
that you
our
had?
perception was as a vanilla transport company operating between, Northeast and, those SAARC countries. And now what the way we are discovering, it is a, technology, of course, one way of doing it. And then you are helping and how you integrated the entire solutions and how you are helping the entire industry, to flourish. So that's very, very, exciting to know.
So perhaps, and thanks for sharing that, perhaps we need to brand ourselves better.
That is what actually I am saying. So
Yes,
Logistics Shakti has a task for that as well.
Sure, appreciate that, because
Sure.
our intent is to help people. So
Correct.
any platform that helps us in achieving that
Certainly.
helpful.
Yeah. Right. Very nice discussion what we had on a SARC side of it. Let's come back again on the transformative journey. Let's go a little deeper on the technology side. So, in a legacy company or maybe a manual process driven organization and converting into a implementing ERP itself a big challenge. That too in the era of, early 2010 or 11 kind of a year you might have taken that task. I have seen few organizations in year 2005-6, they could not survive just because of they are blaming the ERP only. So how that journey has been?
It's been a very interesting journey, and we've been lucky that we didn't have many failures along this journey. When we implemented our ERP, our date of implementation, Amit, for our goal was to implement it on 31st March 2020. And you and your viewers will recall that coincided with the phase 1 of COVID.
Correct.
So that date obviously didn't pan out because we had to push our implementation later. But we still managed to do it 4 or 5 months after that, I believe in the end of August. So it was a huge challenge, but one thing that I feel that our organization really did well, and a lot of credit goes to the team, because our teams actually prepared for the ERP implementation over 18 months. So, and my engineering experience and process oriented mindset actually helped in that process as well, where we actually put in more time in the preparation than the actual implementation of it. So the implementation probably took about a year, the core implementation of it, but the preparation was, as I mentioned, about 18 months. So to any organization that is doing that, I would say put a lot of time in preparing for that, which includes but is not limited to training. The user interface has to be very simple. And with technology, one of the things that I've learned and I continue to learn from people who are in the technology domain is uh, what is the end solution that you want or the problem that you want to solve from technology, whether it's ERP or now today it's AI. There are a lot of organizations.
Now just coming on the next question, AI only.
So I'm sorry,
please carry on.
I jumped the gun because
Sure.
I feel they are very seamlessly connected, because it can become very fascinating for any entrepreneur or any CXO to think and want to implement AI. But I feel that it's very important to understand what is it that you want to achieve from that technology or through AI, because it's easy to invest or buy in a product, but if it again goes back to the solution and what problem you want to solve for the end customer, or if there is a problem or a challenge for your employees that you want to solve. So understanding that is the lens with which we see technology, that what is the problem we want to solve, and then whether our ERP or an AI solution can actually help solve that problem. So again, going to basic principles, solution first, how and process becomes second. And then of course having the right team and skill set within the organization is always a challenge, for any business. So we've been lucky that we've had a very experienced team in handling this. So creating a strong base and foundation to implement any new technology, having the ability to make use of that technology, because there would be 100 modules that would be there in any software, but how many modules can you actually use as a company practically, and how many modules can you actually take benefit from? So that's something that is helpful to be aware of, especially for small and medium businesses. And there is also a choice, Amit, from my perspective, in my experience, that do you want to be a technology company that is selling logistics solutions, or do you want to be a logistics company with a foundation of technology? It's a very fundamental choice, but it's a very important choice that we as entrepreneurs need to make before we start investing in technology, because today there is no end to how much you can invest, and there is no ceiling, and every day there are new products and opportunities coming, especially in AI. You can spend hours and days with Claude and Chat GPT, and at the end of it you will only have a handful of learnings or maybe no practically implementable solutions. So it's very important to have the eye at
what actually we want to achieve out of it.
Absolutely.
Even then, since you come from the technology background or the engineering background, and you have a neck of implementing it, so which are the function do you see in logistics industry which can be optimized through the AI?
So operations, Amit, is a low hanging fruit. So whether it's load planning, especially for PTL players, route optimization, especially if you're an asset heavy company, demand forecasting, predicting credit failures, understanding payment cycles. Now, something that our team tried just very recently, it's a very live example where we are using Claude to analyze payment histories of companies over the last few months and years, and to build a credit rating for organizations based on that data, and to make real-time decisions based on changing trends of customers' payment cycles, as well as the business that the organizations are giving to us. So those are real-time things that organizations can actually do. And we are also trying to do, we have a dedicated strategy team that works on new initiatives through AI and technologies. They work hand in hand with all the functions as well as our technology team in experimenting with new thoughts and ideas. So these are just some of the things where people can work on. Operations, as I mentioned, is one key area. Then there is a huge role in the HR domain as well, where you can understand more about employee experiences, how employees are feeling, and being able to connect with employees, because AI at the end of the day depends on data. So the more data you work with, as long as your data is secure, of course, within that AI platform, the more insights that you can get. But the pitfall, I suppose, is that how do you actually use that data to make the right decisions for your organization?
Got it. Very nice. So let's move little further from the policy perspective. The government has a mandate, or the country has a mandate, or we keep comparing, and every discussion or session or the event, it keep coming. The rest of the world or developed world logistic cost or India logistic costs. So there is a lot of scope, lot of improvement has already has come. So where do you see the policy gaps? What are your perspective on the expectation as a logistics leader?
So I feel there is always room to grow, and if we discuss this question after 10 years, there will still be 10 other
Still
things
be
that we need to do.
correct.
As of today, I feel the government is doing an excellent job at the state level and at the central level. GST, e-way bills have been an absolute game changer. There are still, as I was mentioning initially in our discussion, Amit, a lot of teething issues and gray areas which in the GST and e-way bill domain that can be streamlined. Because we are more present in cross-border domain, so my lens
Always go back there.
always goes back there. Even though a lot of reforms would impact both domestic and cross-border businesses. So the simpler the need for our documentation, the more regulators and government agencies rely on digital documents instead of physical documents, and the more we make it mandatory for companies to go digital, the easier it becomes to do business. And in terms of infrastructure, of course, the first mile and last mile connectivity can be significantly improved, as we were discussing earlier. The Gati Shakti portal is a great initiative. The dedicated freight corridors.
Yeah.
So a lot of right moves are being made, a lot of right signals are being made. How the implementation of these things happen, because the intent is right, even though we are very late in the game, but it's never too late to implement these things. So the devil lies in the details and how fast we implement the reforms that are already in place is how I would see things, Amit.
So entire this lot of development you already mentioned is going on. Multimodal logistics policy of the logistics parks, government, different state governments are coming up. Most of the state government has declared their own logistics policy document, and central government itself has taken up various initiatives. A lot of transformation in terms of again I mentioned mod ways to integrated supply chain, technology driven automation. A lot of things are going on. So for the young entrepreneurs like you who are aspiring to build the startups from the greenfield itself, so which are the areas or market gap you see to build the organizations or the startups?
So that's an interesting question, and it also ties into our earlier discussion about what are the pain points that customers are facing today.
Yeah.
So there is a tremendous opportunity now with technology that can help us solve a lot of customer problems. So the first advice that I would give to new or budding entrepreneurs would be to actually talk to customers or talk to potential customers and understand what are those gaps and how it fits into their own DNA. And if you can find a way to use technology to solve those problems, then it is an absolute game changer. Another thing I would add is to, before investing in assets, being very asset heavy, be very cognizant of the return of investments of those assets, because it's very easy to get loans or to even raise capital today. But having that financial discipline or a long-term view of how the ROI is going to be generated, I still feel is very important. And to any budding entrepreneur, I would suggest to, or even established companies today, it's very important to maintain that financial discipline, because it's very easy to get disrupted if you have invested all your eggs in one basket and tomorrow if you get disrupted, if you don't have the agility, both financially to reinvent yourself or to pivot, it's going to be very, very difficult to survive. So I feel today to have the strength and the capability to not be disrupted itself is a very important thing to be aware of. And I know I digressed a little bit from your
No,
question.
but very, very
but
important point. Not to be disrupted itself is a big achievement.
and especially if you take a long term view, because and this is something that we keep discussing with the team, that if there are so many opportunities that fall, India is a land of opportunities. People talk about this challenge, that challenge, and uh, I try and keep shifting our lens to again, challenge versus opportunity, that we are in a land of opportunity. We are the fastest growing uh, developing economy, so to speak, in the world, and everyone now wants to set up shop in India. So it's high time we stop complaining and actually
Absolutely.
feel
Looking for
really
the
grateful for the opportunity that we have. But that, in my view, Amit, comes with its own pitfall, that it's also important for entrepreneurs like us to have the ability to say no and to not get entrapped into every opportunity that falls into our lap. So for us, and for me personally, because it's important for me to carry forward this legacy and uh, transition it into a better shape than how I got it, I try to be aware of how I can get disrupted, which opportunities I need to say yes to, which opportunities I need to say no to. And we have a lot of push and pull within the company. And again, as a leader, I think it's very important, and I try to create an environment where my team can actively challenge me, and how I can make them comfortable in challenging my thoughts and my decisions, and not just go by as per what I feel is right in the moment. Because I personally feel that is an absolute recipe for disaster. That if I feel that I know what is best and मैं जो सोचूंगा वैसे ही होगा. So we have a lot of healthy debate in the company, and especially when it comes to which opportunities to say yes and which opportunities to say no to. For example, we've had a lot of opportunities to invest in our own assets, whether it comes to trucks and building our warehouses. But we've been very strategic, Amit, in saying yes and no to opportunities. And it's important to stay true to your DNA, is what I feel, that our DNA is more towards being asset light. We've chosen to invest more in people, technology, and processes, and building our own knowledge and expertise base, which is difficult to replicate, or more difficult to replicate, and more difficult to disrupt. So having said that, it doesn't mean that if you have your own assets, it's a bad thing. I'm not advocating that. But if there have been companies who in our space that are doing excellently well and brilliantly, being very asset heavy companies, and they are being true to their own DNA.
absolutely.
So knowing what,
So over a period, the
yeah,
culture and this DNA become for the organization, it become a living organ. Organization itself is a living organ. So these had their own strength and capabilities, and we should keep accordingly. मछली को पेड़ पे नहीं चढ़ा सकते, और हाथी को नहीं कुदा सकते.
very true, very true. And so yeah, you said it rightly. Culture is such an important piece, and I always feel and say that an organization can be as good as a piece of paper if you don't have a good team or technology or good people. Uh, we just moved into our new office, new corporate office. We built a new office, and I would love to invite you there, Amit. And I remember in one of our first discussions, I told the team that this building can just be a brick and mortar, but what can make it alive is the culture and the vibrancy that we bring inside this office, and that is what defines any organization and defines the success or failure of any organization. And that value and that culture actually defines whether you exist or not 10 years, 20 years, or 50 years from now.
Good to have that you mentioned that stick to your own DNA is very important, and what you think should be challenged by the team. So you achieved the debt free status or situation for your organization. very difficult in a transport or kind of a business. So how this journey been, and what strategy, if it is not much secret,
Oh, not at all.
can be
Happy to
followed?
share.
Yeah.
So we made it a strategic priority, thankfully and luckily, Amit, just before COVID, that we want to start reducing our debt strategically without uh, going down on our ambitions. So earlier we thought it would be an either or thing, that either you can grow or you can be debt free. But I always felt that you can have a best of both worlds if you do it the right way. So we've been very conscious about the kind of businesses or the kind of clientele that we want to work with. We've been very conscious about the kind of fixed assets that we want to invest in. In COVID, what really helped us was that we consolidated uh, some routes and branches and assets which were not yielding a lot of profits for us. And we started building our own reserves over a period of time. So it took us about 5 or 6 years for us to start building our reserves. And it was, being a Marwadi, it was a very difficult for me to do thing for me to do, to actually build reserves, and because it was taking away, money from the working capital of the company and building reserves separately, which was not giving us that rate of return.
Yeah.
But I was very conscious that disruption is coming, and having a long-term view really helped that. And obviously, we didn't know that COVID was going to come. But by the time COVID came, with God's grace, we actually had a decent buffer on which to rely on, which helped us in that time to fulfill our obligations to all our employees. We were blessed with the ability to give full salaries without any loss of pay, on time salaries to everyone during COVID. And that happened only because of our financial discipline that we had. So, at a tactical level, it was only possible with a very, very strong intent. And that is really helping us now, because that financial discipline is now helping us to invest in the right areas, uh, technology and people. And we are only investing in assets where we cannot go with an OPEX model, or for example, in our for our cross-border business, where we need our own assets, where it's not possible or very difficult to operate out of an OPEX model. We are investing only strategically in those domains. Otherwise, we try to be as asset light as possible.
So what is next phase of journey of Sugam is going to define? Is it, I mean, regional expansion or location diversification? Is it the platform of technology to operate, or going deeper into AI, or supply chain 3PL you are integrating? So which are the next initiatives?
So I would say it's going to be a mix of all, and the foundation is always going to be our company purpose and the impact that we are bringing to our stakeholders. We actually measure the number of lives that we impact, and we try to be conscious of that. So the more and more people we are able to impact in a positive way is going to be our foundation, and is going to be a measure of our success, Amit. And of course, technology is going to play a central role. We are still a logistics company with a foundation of technology. That's the path that we have chosen. But how we integrate AI into our current layer of technology, and how we seamlessly integrate that across our organizations, that's going to be one layer of our medium and long term future. Continuing to work on building capabilities in the team and building a great culture. Again, that's a foundation from our perspective that comes before any operational capability, because ultimately it's the teams that are going to deliver, and the business model can always keep changing. When it comes to the operational capabilities, to your question, of course, our focus is how we can add more value added services and more products into our portfolio for our cross border customers, and how, and specifically domestically, Northeast is one of our key markets. So how we can integrate all our current services, which is full truckload transportation, part load transportation, warehousing, contract logistics, and how we bring this all together for our domestic and international business while keeping our focus on cross border as well as Northeast. That's going to be our yardstick for success in the medium term.
Very nice. So we had a very interesting and quick session. We covered most of our, deeper part of logistics, SARC, inside of the company, certain policies. Now we are moving towards closing phase. We'll have a 3 or 4 quick questions as a rapid fire. So, what one trend you see which will disrupt this, entire logistics industry?
Technology and AI broadly, and more specifically, freight matching using AI for customers and service providers can be a game changer.
What one policy which can, reform the logistics industry, you see?
Digitalization of all documents, whether it's for land ports, domestic movements, or cross-border movements.
If you become the, the transport minister of the country, what one decision would you like to take?
I would go back to my previous answer. I would set out a goal for going paperless across the logistics industry. I would set a date and go backwards. And knowing our current transport minister, I know that if he decides to take this up, he's going to achieve it also.
One book you would recommend for the entrepreneurs precisely in the our industry?
I would say Good to Great by Jim Collins.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic book. And for second and third generation entrepreneurs, there's a wonderful book called Prince by Machiavelli. It talks about the challenges of a prince that has to take over after a king and the duties and responsibilities of someone taking over an empire is something that has greatly benefited me. And a lot of teachings by Chanakya have also benefited me.
One mistake the entrepreneur should avoid?
Compromising long-term growth for short-term results.
Absolutely fantastic. And repeating the question initial also we had, the one leadership principle people should follow.
So if I may quote one of my gurus, Paramahansa Yoganand, as a line that I try to live by, is that be softer than a flower when it comes to kindness, but be stronger than thunder when it comes to principles.
Very nice. Right. Thank you, Kaustubh. Last question. So, what is your suggestion and the feedback for the platform like Logistics Shakti? So, your critique or appreciation, whatever you would like to have.
So, firstly, thanks so much, Amit, for this platform and for having such an engaging conversations. And I hope I was able to answer your questions and able to add some value for your viewers. And there are no suggestions. I would just share my experience that ultimately, as leaders, you and your team has an opportunity to shape so many minds, and you are already doing a wonderful job. And keep bringing on, leaders and people who can keep adding value for your listeners. And I'll continue to be one of the beneficiaries of this platform, and happy to be a part of this platform. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you. If you are still watching this video and this episode, so please do share with the people whom you feel like these kind of a content can shape their life. They can shape better decisions in their life, and keep giving different comments and appreciation or criticize or different kind of a leaders you are looking for on this platform. Thank you very much.